Hello, all you party people. Welcome back to the next installment of Waterloo Road Rewind. Now, this is quite an interesting episode. It very much feels like a sort of conjunction episode to me, where it feels like a lot that's already happened kind of concludes, but it also begins to set up more. I may have said it last episode, or maybe the episode before, or maybe I just said it to my friend. I don't know. I can barely remember anymore. Um, Due to Series two's weird structure of it being 12 episodes, it feels very different to any other season of the show. So it feels like there's lots of mini arcs that kind of intersect and interconnect and sort of build this series. So like we've had Mika's bullying plot, and that's kind of ended. We have got like Maxine gets introduced in this episode. We've got Lewis come back into the mix. It kind of feels like there's lots of 3 or 4 or 5 episode like mini arcs that kind of overlap and overflow, and it just snowballs and builds to the end of the series. Like we've got sort of the school funding and like Roger Aspinall for the majority, and we've got like the slow burn background stuff like Kim and Andrew's relationship. But it feels like there's so much little segmented pieces that kind of make up this sort of this season. So like I said, I'm sorry, it's my hay fever's been particularly bad this week, so I might sound a bit snotty and a bit gross, so I apologize for that. This episode introduces Maxine Barlow, who is at this point Lewis Seddon's like current girlfriend. They break into Dante's house, they spend some time there, and she basically robs him because she wants money to get gear. I mean, it kind of fits her character, what little of it we know so far. And it kind of like Maxine feels like quite a tragic character through and through. So this sort of setup for the character kind of makes sense. What's interesting to me is, and I thought this when I started watching Series 2 before Christmas, the first time in a few years that I'd watched it, is that like when we see Maxine, she's not exactly a villain, but she's not like, you do feel bad for her because she's homeless, but she's not like the most rootable character in the world. But you look at her in this moment and you see like, right, she's scrounging for money, she's on her own and stuff. And yet like this poor girl goes on to have arguably the saddest and most like impactful death of the whole show. Like I think when you think deaths in Waterloo Road, you think of Grantley like collapsing in the theatre in Scotland. You think of Tom falling from the building. You think of Maxine and Earl. And then if you're going for some more modern stuff, then maybe you think about Darius killing Hope. Like there's bits, or Billy accidentally killing Boz. Like, but it's the fact that I would call Maxine's death probably the saddest. And if I ever do a video, which I might do for the top 5 saddest deaths, that would be number 1, I think. So I think I quite like what they do with Maxine because it feels like quite an organic way to bring her in. So when Lewis basically leaves her, she robs Dante's house, which makes sense for her character and where she is currently in the world. Dante and Chloe get back. They find he's been robbed, and Dante's like, "Oh, I'm going to kill Seddon," and grabs like a wrench and stuff because he's terrified that his dad's going to kill him because like the house is in a wreck. His important stuff's been stolen. Like I don't think what Dante did was right. It kind of fits his sort of impulsive personality, but I get that like he's in a bad way, so it makes sense. And then like we and like I guess the characters on screen meet Maxine formally. I mean, I know that Lewis refers to her as Max and is like, "Oh, Dante, it's my girlfriend who did it" and stuff. So there's little nuggets of info here. But then the very first thing she does is interact with Steph. And you find out that like she used to be a student at Waterloo Road. And I guess she had a kind of closeness with Steph, which is where they're kind of setting this up. So like she scrounges from Grantley and Steph trying to get some drinks or some food or whatever. Grantley basically tells her to do one, which makes sense for Grantley's character. I think from Steph's point of view, you do kind of feel for her, like you can kind of see it. And then the episode ends with Maxine attempting to rob Steph while she's quite inebriated, and Steph sort of like realizing that something's really not right here. Maxine's like vomiting, she's compulsing on the floor, Steph kind of holds her and looks after her, and you sort of sympathize more with where Maxine is here than like earlier on in the episode. And again, as I said, this season's got little conjunction points. This feels like that, and it feels like it's the start of a new plot point. It's opening up this thread, and we know because we've seen the show that like Maxine becomes Steph's like adopted daughter, like her ward and stuff. So we see the character change and stuff from here. It's just a bit interesting that this is when Maxine begins. And again, it ties into more plots of the series as next episode introduces that serial attacker who's going after those women and stuff, and that ties to like Maxine and Steph and stuff. But this whole Steph point, it kind of comes from another point. So Steph feels quite neglected by Jack. She believes that they should have something going on. I mean, she saved his life, and she just feels a bit like she's just been now disregarded, and she doesn't feel great about it. And that's kind of where the show's at, which is kind of sad. But Steph wants Jack. Jack wants Davina, and I think Steph is just looking for more in her life. She wants a lot, like wants to feel like she's got a calling, like something's missing, whether that's like a relationship or she just wants more. And then like she and Grantley drown their sorrows, and Grantley gets a bit drunk and is a bit mean to her, but immediately realizes what he said was wrong, tries to correct it, but then Steph leaves in a huff, and that leads to the whole Maxine trying to steal the bag. So that's where that's at. Jack is very much head over heels for Davina, as is Brett. So Jack's getting more annoyed across the episode because a secret admirer keeps sending Davina gifts like flowers and balloons, and Davina keeps lying to him about where it's coming from, and he doesn't appreciate the lies and the fibbing. But it's Brett. Brett is head over heels for Davina, despite the fact that Brett is a child and Davina's not. This plot point's always sort of bothered me a little bit. Like, Brett lied and said he was older, but I think as soon as Davina realised, she should have just put a stop to it and said no. It's a bit like the whole thing with Chris and Jess always bothers me, that I feel like Chris just should have confessed to Karen and been like, look, she told me she was older. And I feel like, I get there wouldn't be a lot of the story this season, but like, Davina should just put a stop to it. I get she feels a bit entrapped, and that's why she's sort of going along with it to try and keep Brett at bay. But if she does like Jack, which she claims she does, and I do believe that she does, then I feel like this is kind of stupid and a bit of a hindrance and not like a good hindrance. So there's that. Yeah, it's just the whole thing between Brett and Davina I find quite cringy personally. I think even if Brett was like a young student teacher or something and they were meant to be the same age, because in real life they probably are more or less the same age, I still think it's weird. I don't quite get it. But yeah, while we're on the subject of Brett, the kind of major conflict this episode is Jack, Brett, and Roger. So Brett lashes out and destroys the model school they've got on display to try and spite Roger. Brett's hungover in a bad way and is just lashing out. So he does this. And like Kim and Andrew try and talk to him. They try and be like, look, like this isn't the way to do it. Jack is relying so heavily on Brett getting good grades to boost the school status that he doesn't want to have to kick Brett out and doesn't really see the need to. So he tries to try to solve it internally, which Kim disagrees with. Kim makes the point of any other student and he would have been out the door, but the difference being that Brett's got endless money and endless possibilities. He could get a tutor or go to a private school. It's not sort of closing the door on him. Yet Jack and Andrew would and have closed the door on other disruptive kids. So I kind of get the debate. It did tickle me the way that Jack revealed it. So during a meeting with the board, which really isn't going Jack's way, you can see Jack and Roger kind of being quite passive-aggressive to each other. And then Jack brings up that the model's been destroyed. And Roger's like, well, I hope that you got rid of the student. And Jack's like, well, it's difficult, Roger, because it's your son, blah, blah, blah. And that whole thing is funny. And then Roger snaps and basically tries to get Brett out of Grantley's classroom. Grantley's sniping is funny as well, because Grantley doesn't care. He just hates Roger. So he's like, get out of my class. And he's like, Mr. Aspinall has lost control. And he was like, right, students, out. It's a health and safety issue. Whereas we all know Grantley does not give a toss about it whatsoever. He's just trying to wind up Roger, and it's very fun to watch. Jack then comes on the scene and basically gets the kids out of the room. He's like, come on, Roger, me, you, and Brett need to come to my office. And then Roger gets annoyed that Jack kind of belittled him in front of his son, so he punches Jack, and then Jack retaliates, and they get into a fight that Andrew then breaks up. So there's that. Again, this feels like the kind of end to the Jack, Roger, and Brett kind of storyline. So basically, Davina tells Jack that all of Roger's money is coming from the adult magazine industry, and it's kind of like money laundering, but it's fed into different accounts, so it kind of disguises it. Which Andrew is against, because who wants people to know that the school's funding comes from that kind of thing? Jack basically forces Jack forces Roger into a corner and basically says that like the school name has to change, everything has to change, he's staying as the head teacher and stuff, and Roger basically backs down. Like, you can tell he still hates Jack and isn't happy. But Jack basically gets his own back and is like, right, this is what's happening. And yeah, that's essentially how that ends. There ends up being kind of a heart-to-heart between Brett and Roger, where Roger explains that like he and Brett's mum made peace before she passed away, that their relationship wasn't all that active, so she encouraged the pursuit of another woman, hoping that they would get married and that sort of legacy would continue. Brett doesn't want to hear it, but Roger has the letter that his wife wrote to him personally, and is like, right, son, I don't really want you to read this, but if it's what it takes to prove it, then they do it. And there's a really nice moment between Brett and Roger. I think the scene is acted quite well, like it's very believable. So yeah, that was a nice conclusion at the end. And then the only sort of other stuff is like we see Lorna is in hospital, they're scanning her brain, they find something, and we find out next episode what the ramification of that is. Tom, Izzy, and Andrew help her move into her apartment, and it's really cringy because she like hugs Andrew and is like, oh, I think I may have found my boyfriend, and then they start kissing, and oh, I hate it so much. I think Lorna's a cringy woman, and I don't see the chemistry between Andrew and Lorna. I mean, I think it's kind of the point, because we know that like Andrew will end up with Kim, but Andrew at this point should just be saying no if he's not feeling it, because like, I mean, I don't think he is. So I know he's not a bad bloke and he doesn't want to hurt her feelings, but I think he should have been more honest about it. So yeah, not a big fan of that. Yeah, I kind of this love triangle, man. It's like, until Lorna and Izzy go, we're just stuck with this plot point, and I just don't like it. I think fundamentally why I don't watch series 1 and 2 a great deal is because I really, really dislike the love triangle between Tom, Izzy, and Lorna. And I know I've said that so many times, but just throwing Andrew into the mix just adds another level of cringe, and I can't cope watching it. When her and Andrew were making out, I turned away and I was creasing. I was like, I can't deal with it. I just want Andrew and Kim to be together. Oh, I don't like it. But yeah, I'm gonna give fair warning to next episode. So episode 5, I believe. It has one of my least favorite like episode of the week plots of the whole show, and I can't watch it without cringing. Like, I'm probably just gonna have to skip the end bit because I can't. I'll go into more detail next time, but it's when Tom and Holiday Granger are in bed together. I can't. It hurts me. It's so bad. But yeah. Yeah, I really like this one. I think it's a good introduction for Maxine. I think it does a lot for Steph as well. It's a nice conclusion to everything with Jack, Roger, and Brett. And yeah, I enjoyed all of the setup, and I mean, not so much next episode, but I'm looking forward to the rest of the series now. It kind of feels like we're quite comfortable and in the swing of things and ready to go. So yeah, I like this one. I think it's a good episode. So this has been Waterloo Road Rewind. You've had All Is New, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a good rest of week.